Around the time it came out in 1847, a critic reviewing Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights said of the book, quote, "How a human being could have attempted such a book as the present without committing suicide before he had finished a dozen chapters is a mystery. It is a compound of vulgar depravity and unnatural horrors." When Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights began with what sounded like a man moaning in sexual ecstasy only for it to reveal a man who had gotten an erection while being hanged, I thought this film might really have a chance at approaching the darkness and complexity of the book, or at least something interesting. But sadly, it didn't take too long to realize that this film doesn't have a whole lot on its mind besides aesthetic excess and Jacob Elordi's back, and I think that in refusing to just make her own original film, Emerald Fennell has created something that's stuck in between Wuthering Heights and the kinky epic romance that she so clearly wanted to make that has nothing in common with Wuthering Heights. We'll get into all of it. This video will have light spoilers, so you have been warned. This one has been an exhausting, contentious discourse cycle, guys. We're gonna kind of try to sort through what happened here, and if you liked the film or if you hated it, as always, let me know. I've heard opinions all over the map, which checks out, because 3 films into her career now, Emerald Fennell has obviously cemented herself as a very polarizing director, more so with each subsequent film. I personally liked Saltburn. No shame, and I completely get why a lot of people hated it, but whatever vapid wavelength it was on, I was able to have fun and get on board with. It was like the form was the function, you know? So I don't think Fennell is incapable of making a fun, enjoyable movie, but for me, again, so much of what is wrong with Wuthering Heights stems from those sort of mismatched elements of Fennell's narrative and the original text. We just discussed Adaptations and all of that when Frankenstein came out, so I won't beat a dead horse. I don't want to repeat myself, but I hope we can all agree generally that adaptations don't need to be faithful, but they should preferably be good. And I think the final product here, even on its own, is tonally inconsistent. The characterizations are all over the place, the 2 leads are miscast, and it doesn't even have the decency to be the fun and steamy ride that was promised. And most of that obviously comes down to Cathy and Heathcliff. Everything here relies on whether you can go along with Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi being so desperately and tragically in love with each other. And I've been really surprised by just how many people have been saying that they couldn't, even those who haven't read the book before, and the disappointment is understandable. Fennell has long been accused of trying too hard to be freakier, that her films aren't as freaky as people say that they are, and I don't think that's ever been more true than here. It's shockingly tame considering the marketing and even her previous work. At least in Saltburn, we were fucking graves and getting Barry Keoghan full frontal. And I don't think there had to be nudity in this film. Some of the sexiest scenes of all time are when people are completely clothed. My issue is that the eroticism here feels so inauthentic. I never stopped seeing Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi, and I never stopped being aware of Fennell behind the camera trying to make it this steamy romance. And I don't agree that she couldn't have adapted the part where Heathcliff digs up Cathy's grave because she did something similar in Saltburn. Just make grave shit your trademark. And it's interesting that Fennell said she wanted this to be this generation's Titanic. It's another instance of her seemingly misunderstanding her own work and making something that's in this weird in-between. It feels restrained for an R-rated film, but it's still too much to have the mass appeal of something like Titanic. Like, why aren't we fully committing to something here? There's also, of course, been a lot of discussion about whether the 2 leads are miscast, and I think they both are, but the reasons why weren't exactly what I was expecting. I think Margot Robbie ended up feeling more miscast than Jacob Elordi, despite giving a better performance, and I say that putting Heathcliff's racial identity in the book to the side for a moment, because I think Heathcliff should be a man of color, but race, does not exist as a social construct in this film, and all of those themes are absent, so we'll engage with it as it is for the time being. I think Elordi isn't really able to shine because the film really flattens Heathcliff. He's never really allowed to be this truly terrible man. The film doesn't hold any space for, and I can't say that phrase seriously anymore, but it doesn't hold any space for Heathcliff's bigger, uglier emotions. He's either suave or coy or the sexy stable boy. When he becomes any form of abusive, it's in the section where he marries Isabella, and it's not really even clear what is real and what is them trying to convince the people at the Grange of abuse, and 2, completely undermined by Fennell's insistence on playing Isabella's abuse for laughs with a doggy kink. Alison Oliver is unfortunately really great in a role that does feel like not only a disservice to the character from the book, who is lured into an abusive relationship with Heathcliff before escaping and raising a child on her own, but I thought it trekked into the distasteful with how much Fennell trivializes the abuse happening on screen for laughs. And Margot Robbie, who is not old, is too old for how childish Cathy is set up to be here. Fennell even further exacerbates it by having this weird section in the middle where she experiences a sexual awakening after the time jump. It's like a bizarre late bloomer situation that isn't supported narratively or thematically, so you're just sort of wondering why she's in her 30s and seemingly only now discovering that sex exists and seeing Heathcliff as a sexual being, especially since Heathcliff doesn't have the same sexual awakening. Cathy comparatively is weirdly infantilized in a way that to me felt meaningless and mostly a roundabout way to make this stable boy fantasy happen. I generally found Fennell's depiction of class and sex and how the two interact with each other confusing and contradictory. The film is constantly telling you one thing and showing you something else. It makes it all the more frustrating that the opening scene is so great, because wouldn't it be more interesting if seeing the man hanged when she was like puberty age was a formative sexual experience for her, if we're gonna be doing that? It would be much more thematically fruitful for the conflation of sex and death to inform this carnal desire for Heathcliff and how their bond reaches this morbid, obsessive level, but we mostly just get a 25-minute affair montage. I couldn't believe that they just end up having an affair and like sneaking around. I was all but checked out of the movie after that decision, and it was mostly also sort of boring, but I don't like that their relationship is reduced to sex when it's also postured to be this like something much greater and uses the same lines from the novel. I don't like that the only reason they were apart is because of a miscommunication that now evil Nellie allowed to happen, and now Cathy wants to end it because she feels guilty. I don't buy it. I don't buy any of it. And that's the problem. It's simultaneously too complicated and oversimplified. I can't go along with the dumb romance, but I also can't enjoy the great parts of Wuthering Heights that are still in it either. It's all a bust. So we could go on about the nitty-gritty details. I'm sure there will be really great videos talking about like specific comparisons between the book and the film, but I really just thought that this was a complete misfire because Emerald Fennell didn't have the restraint or straight up wasn't interested in honoring the things that she set up in her own film. And that's why so many people are wondering why it's an adaptation at all. Why not just make your own original screenplay where you can conceive of these characters from the ground up? She says it's because Wuthering Heights means so much to her, but to me, that contradicts how much she has changed the very soul and meaning of the work beyond understandable changes for a different medium. I would be remiss, though, if I didn't acknowledge the stunning technical work done for the film. Linus Sandgren is literally the best to ever do it. There are some images that are really show-stopping here, and he's just so great at creating a distinct style and atmosphere. I love the score and the soundtrack. I think they do a lot of emotional heavy lifting. The costume and set design, regardless of how you feel about the anachronisms, I'm sort of indifferent personally, but they're just incredible. I love that the sets feel like sets, the dollhouse element. It's very nice and interesting to look at. It's just a shame that it's all in service of something so full of air. So I'm going to give Wuthering Heights 2 out of 5 stars. That's all she wrote. I'm done talking about it. If you want to hear a full hour-and-a-half long conversation about it, you can check out our episode on it over at the House of Cinema. And please, again, let me know what you thought. Were you able to enjoy it? Did you find it offensive as a book lover? Do you think people are being too harsh? Whatever it is. And don't forget to like and subscribe and keep an eye out for more videos soon. Thanks for watching.